So, folks, we've got an exciting session here. I'm honored to be with such distinguished women. Thank you for letting me tee up a few questions and letting you guys speak. But before we get into the actual substance, we have a little bit of entertainment to get us started. So, Baba, over to you. Thank you, Baba. Well done, as always. Okay, so we're at an interesting inflection point in human history, and that is that more and more women are taking positions of leadership in the environmental space. It makes obvious sense. It's sad that it's taken this long, but the trend is going the right way. And what we want to talk about now is focusing on climate champions, such as all of you, and trying to pull out from you why you do what you do and what are you passionate about. So first, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves and just give us a little summary, really about who you are and what you're passionate about. And then I'm going to come back and ask some more pointed questions. So I'm going to start with Claire, and I'm going to hand you a mic, or let's see if that one works.
So hi, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. So Claire Coustar, I am based in London. I work at Deutsche Bank and I head up our global ESG and sustainable finance business. I have basically the task of motivating the largely male banking communities to actually focus on sustainability and doing good for the environment, meanwhile making money for the bank as well. So it's quite an interesting challenge. What drives me is a passion for not being bored is probably the best way to describe it. So I've been most of my career in the emerging markets across LATAM, CEMEA, and Asia. And the one thing I found in my job is that there's never the same issues in any country. There's never the same issues when you're dealing with sovereign, corporate, financial clients. And that's really been my passion in trying to help some of these emerging market clients getting access to capital markets. And these are the clients that need us most. And I had the privilege of doing a lot of due diligence sessions in really beautiful locations, including locations, rainforest nations in Africa and Latin America. And certainly everything with nature, environment, the biodiversity is something that you just can't get anywhere else. So combining that with my new job has really been a pleasure and a joy.
So thank you all for being here, and thank you for the Coalition for Rainforest Nations for hosting us. I'm Ethel Bunch. I am founder and CEO of Sustain South Carolina. We are a nonprofit organization whose mission is to connect the sustainability goals of business in South Carolina with local solutions, obviously to benefit our environment, our economy, and our people. I got into this world about 8 years ago, really just feeling passionately about my state. I ran away when I was 14 years old, went off to boarding school, then went on to college out west, and then came running home because what I realized about my state is there's not a more beautiful place. We are the mountains to the sea. But at the time we were very polarized. We have, agriculture, forestry, tourism driving our economy. And we have an enormous amount of industry in South Carolina, and we are growing exponentially, growing very quickly. And I really felt strongly that we needed to collaborate over those sectors and really bring commerce and conservation together in order to have the best of both worlds. So that was my passion, was to come home and really save my state, if you will. And now my passion goes even further to put us on not only a national map, but a global map as the future of both commerce and conservation. So we'll hear a little bit more about that later.
Thanks, Ethel. Hi, everyone. It's good to be here. I am Catherine Neby. I'm the Chief Sustainability and Philanthropy Officer at Duke Energy. Duke is the largest regulated utility in the United States, so we are a healthy sized company. I have worked in sustainability, previously corporate social responsibility, now often referred to as ESG, for almost 25 years. I've been with Duke for about 2.5 years. Prior to Duke, I was at Walmart, and before that, I was at WWF. My usual joke is the pandas, not the wrestlers, but when I'm at a COP, I feel like most people actually know who WWF is, which is a bit of a shift. And when I was at WWF, I spent a lot of time traveling the world working with Coca-Cola, trying to figure out how to address freshwater conservation. And my purpose, the thing that I love to do, is to work with or at large companies with big footprints and try and figure out how do you inject environmental and social issues into the business in a way that effectively mitigates risk and also creates value. And it's been really, really fun and rewarding to see other business leaders at the companies I've worked at or with also start to really, over the last 20 years, really appreciate this, because I believe I can only drive so much change, but I really need others to share that vision, share that concern, appreciate where I'm coming from so that they can drive their own change in their own way.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all. And it's a pleasure being here with Papua New Guinea and the Coalition for Rainforest Nations. I'm Kimberly Johnston, and I'm a climate and sustainability advisor. I've been in the energy sector for 30 years, starting with the U.S. Treasury, and then served as a corporate officer for a large energy company, and then 2 large global consulting firms. But why am I here today, and why am I really passionate about the climate agenda? And as a female, being a minority in a male-dominated energy sector and based in Houston, Texas, arguably the world's capital energy, or energy capital of the world, my children have grown up in natural disasters. I mean, over the last 7 years, we've had 6 years, we've had 7 federally natural disasters. And 2 years ago, when Texas froze over because of a polar vortex, our friends and family were freezing. We are a modernized society, and we had no power for 5 days. Lost lives. We've had flash flooding. We've had hurricanes after hurricanes. And we can solve our way out of this if we all come together. We truly can. Overnight, my husband and I became a distributed energy resource. Do you even know what that is? It's basically becoming your own energy producer and being resilient in times of risks that are coming and threatening us. One hurricane now costs an economy $400 to $500 billion. This is why loss and damage is now on the agenda at COP27. We have to mobilize across sectors, across private and public and philanthropy. We have to take that capital seriously and get it deployed locally to make our economies resilient against these climate threats. So that's my role. I focus on the built environment, but I love what the Rainforest Coalition is doing from our natural-based resources, because we also have to protect those as well. So I'm going to hand it over to Fedi, my colleague and friend.
Thank you, Kimberly. Good morning, everyone. Pleasure being here. Federica Bietta, Managing Director of Coalition for Rainforest Nation. I start in banking, like Claire, male-dominating work in New York in corporate banking. But then I had the opportunity to save the last rainforest at scale. My passion has always been animals. I wanted to be a veterinarian. I wasn't doing well with blood, so it was not really my career. And so when I had the chance to save the habitat of the all animal living in the rainforest, I said, I cannot miss this opportunity. We're losing a scale, incredible scale, the biodiversity. 50% of the biodiversity worldwide has been lost just in the past 10 years. And so we really need to change that. We need to change the speed, saving their habitat and saving the rainforest. Reversing deforestation is a priority. And we need everyone to help to play the game. If, what is a world without our friends, without the biodiversity? We will not survive, will not be the same beauty as fun as has been. And so it's exciting to see all of you join this fight. And we need everyone. We need men, we need women, and women bring this determination, but with passion and the heart that sometimes is not brought by men. You find more testosterone than other mind and brain. And so I think the partnership is really what is needed and is going to bring us to the next level.
Thank you. At present, I think it's 54% of CSO positions are currently held by women. That's a unique position to have, and it's now held this one fly that follows us all around. That's a unique position to have. So as women, can you talk to us about, one, why those positions are sought by women, and what is it unique about your skill set particularly that puts you in that place? So we'll start with Claire.
Sure. So I'm going to take your question a slightly different take. So I think, from a banking perspective, I think it's been widely recognized that if there were more women in banking in positions of decision-making and influence, and women being more in the room when those decisions happen, we would probably not have had the global financial crisis, and we probably would not have the level of risk-taking at all different types of level, not just credit risk, market risk, but also, importantly, other risk, financial risk, etc. If there were more women in the room. And I think that's why, if I look at Deutsche Bank, there's been a huge push to get more women in positions of power to provide that balanced stakeholder view. So I think, why are there so many women in CSO positions? It provides that balanced stakeholder view where you're advocating not just for the right business decisions from a monetary perspective, but you're advocating for ultimately a cross-stakeholder view and benefiting different parts of society, whether it be nature, whether it be social values and other aspects which are important. And I think it just caters to the female perspective, whether it's hormonal or whether, we are the protectors of nature and the world. I think it's more suited to our natural skill sets.
Yeah, so I agree with that as well, and that's the Weinberg group that came out with there was how many in 2011 11 CSOs, and today there are 90 plus, and 54% of those are women. So for me, I was like, did I run her off? But then I remembered she had to go. For me, where I really saw this come alive and what inspired me the most was a women's empowerment trip I took to Tanzania with Global Bike. They were a client of mine at the time. And I took my two girls. They were 12 and 14 years old. And we went basically biking through Tanzania. And we kind of went there and tried to rid ourselves of our Western viewpoint, right? Like really be open to what these women had to share. The model was essentially the women would write business plans, and then we would give them the bikes, work with them on the business plan. And then they would have access to these bikes to what we thought would be get to clean water, to get the wood. The bikes were made locally. They were made for the terrain, could carry 200 pounds. The tires were thick. And we thought that they would use them to go to the villages and sell their goods, right? And again, my girls were at very impressionable ages at the time. And what we found when we got there was we knew nothing. They had this all figured out. They were using the bikes, or they were going to use, the plan was to use the bikes to as an ambulance. So infant mortality rates immediately started to go down, to take those with AIDS to their daily medication, get the daily medication resources. But what started happening was that these women started renting them to the men as years went on. And the men, they started making money, right? And then they started a bike repair shop. So by the time I went back 2 years later, the women had, they had their communities, right? The women's group. And when they come in those communities, they give the money to whomever needs it that they're raising. If you have a sick child, if you want to send your daughter to school, well, all of their daughters were now in school and going to school based on the bike that we were just trying to give them to get access to clean water. And why I share this and to the point of your question is women are resilient and we're resourceful and we're strategic, but we're also extremely empathetic and we lead with passion. And I think that's a unique combination as females, that really allows us when it comes to issues of sustainability to be at the forefront of this, because this is Mother Nature and we understand her. And I think together, we can hold hands and really combine our passion with men, with children, with others, to really lead in this space. So I think it is, I don't think being resourceful, strategic, strong is counterintuitive to being passionate and empathetic. I just think that's what makes us maybe stronger in this field.
Thank you. I serve as a chief sustainability officer, and I think one of the things that I've observed about success in corporate America in sustainability is really the function is about change management with a deep subject matter expertise of an environmental or social issue, ideally multiple issues, and how they're all interconnected. And I think that specific kind of skill doesn't lend itself to a quote unquote more traditional corporate American hierarchy. And so I think from a recruiting standpoint, a hiring standpoint, you tend to look at fields that are not traditional, at least in the US. I can't speak for globally. And that is, I think, given a variety of dynamics where you tend to find more people with diverse talent, diverse skills, and therefore more women to basically build that pipeline into a company and up into kind of a leadership position. So I think there is something about where you can find the people with the real expertise that matters and that I think is so important. I do also think that women often bring to Ethel's great point, passion and empathy to the work. I believe when you're doing change management, because fundamentally I'm showing up to very traditional companies in the US and saying, guess what? You're doing it wrong. and being able to message that in a way where someone hears you and listens to you, and where you hear them and listen to them, is, I think, more often than not a feminine skill.
Absolutely. And when I think about my journey for 30 years, I really have to kind of go back to my upbringing. And I think we all do. Like, what are those really core values? And for me personally, I was raised, you have to be a public servant. We're here for a moment in time, and we have to serve something greater than ourselves. And I think we've seen society really look at extraction for the few, the extraction to gain from self-interest for that very company, for that very local economy, for that all the way to the individual. And when you really take a step back, and you're here in Egypt, and you see a culture 5,000 years ago, and they came together for a purpose higher than themselves, and to see the Giza pyramids, and amazing, and the Alexandria Library. And here we have the challenge of the greatest human threat of our lifetime. And we have to come together for a purpose greater than ourselves. And I think that's what women can do. And when I think of energy and what I do, I'm keeping the lights on. When I look at a National Geographic and I see the world at night, most of it is dark. That's how, but there was a connection back then, that you were connected to nature. You were connected to the stars. People traveled, the Polynesians, in a little tree through oceans to discover new land. Could we do that today? No, we're fearful in a massive cruise line. But we have to get back to that nature place. But we also have to understand that when we are developed, and we are keeping those lights on, and we're going to expand developed countries with energy, we have to do it consciously and through a conscious capitalistic way, where we all are going to live in harmony for future generations beyond ourselves. So and I think women are uniquely positioned, but I also think we need men. It's a yin and the yang of everything in life.
Yes. I think you find more women at high-level position because this time, and we have been lucky because we were born now and not 100 years ago. So time has been changing. So that definitely help. There is this openness. Women can do things. But then bringing back to me personally, I think my upbringing was very helpful. I was brought up that you need to study first. Education is priority. Nobody can take it away from you. And so you have to be other finance lawyers, economists, that's so a little bit, but then I was also brought up that once you have your education, you're free to do what you want. And so when I started in banking, because where my family grew up, and I started there, but then when I started to have my knowledge and look the world, what there was out there, and can I combine my passion? And so I said, yes, we can do that. So now you have a work that is your passion. You apply your finance skill, your economy skills to save rainforest animal, and so it becomes basically you don't work one day because you follow your passion, and that's where you are. So at the same time, I want to be a little bit contradictory, meaning I don't think women should be in position of high level if they don't deserve it. Just because you're a woman, you shouldn't be, just for that thing. So you need to work as much as anyone else, woman, man, or whatever, to get where you are. And every day you need to keep improving yourself and demonstrate that you deserve it and you can do even more.
Thank you. I found that really insightful personally. Seriously, the fact of trying to listen to the people you're working with, to try to be integrative in your skill set and abilities, to try to focus on your passions, to rely on your family and your upbringing. Those are all powerful messages. So we've sort of got time for one more question. So I'm going to tie a couple concepts together and let you guys riff. Women are disproportionately impacted by climate change. At the same time, actually getting active roles and roles of leadership in climate change is not always easy. You are in some ways exceptions. So what advice do you have to young people who want to have the impact that you have had in your careers? Please.
Sure. So first of all, as we've all seen the youth take the stage, and just witnessed what we did in the last panel, that's inspirational because I think there's a lot of passion there. I think that, yes, women are, and this is a little going off subject, but one of the best things I saw was at UNGA when I was with Kimberly, and we saw WaterAid was there, and Matt Damon was presenting, and he was talking about this little girl that he met. She was in second grade, and she had no access to any water. And he was like, when I was in second grade, I was an actor with I had a dream of becoming an actor. Ben Affleck was his best friend. I never dreamed I'd actually be able to become an actor. And obviously fast forward and we see what he's doing. And he said, this little girl who's in second grade wants to be a nurse, but has no access to water. And so she's having, instead of to go to school, to go get water. And he said, she should have access to water because she probably has the solution to cancer locked up in that brain somewhere. And so when you talk about those children, it just inspired me because I was thinking not just women, but children who are, and this was for hygiene, obviously for women, but somewhere out there, it's locked up. There's so much that's locked up. But as I work with a lot of young women, we have a Sustainability Leadership Institute, and I have female interns from Furman University. And the first advice I got as a young woman was to lean in. I don't know if y'all read the book, Lean In. We all did. And at the time, I was like, what is this talking about? I don't need to lean in. I'm always at the table, right? I always have a right to be at the table. And then I realized I wasn't there yet in my career. Now I understand what it means to lean in. So lean in, right? But be yourself. Do not try to be a man. You don't need to be aggressive. You don't need to be, trying to fight partner. My biggest mentors, to your point, are my father. First was education always. Second was travel, see the world, experience the world. I was no different than my brother. He believed in me. And now second is my husband. And then my other two mentors are men. They are, I talk to one every Tuesday, my board chair, and every other Thursday, who inspire me. So surround yourself with strong women. We went to a dinner the other night. Women pull out the chair for each other. We don't have to lean in together. We pull the chair out for each other and put each other at the table. We're good at that. But definitely surround yourself with men who understand, the same thing, and believe in us. So don't make that polarized as a female. Be feminine. I wore pink today for a reason. We can be feminine and we can be strong women, and that's okay as well. But follow your passion, I think, is what I would say. And I think that was all. I got really passionate about this morning when I woke up. It's the first time I've tried to kind of think through some of these panels, but I think just, like I tell my girls every day, you do have to, we do sometimes have to work harder, work ethic, to be recognized. And obviously being from South Carolina and being a woman, I think is challenging at times. But I think just find that balance and strike that balance, but never give up.
Thanks, Ethel. Really beautiful words. So I would start with just also, in addition to women being disproportionately impacted by climate, unfortunately, we're disproportionately impacted by almost every other societal issue. So I think I was thinking back of COVID. We're still in it, but In the US, all job losses in December of 2020 were women. That's it. And so, I think we as a community are both uniquely challenged, but I also believe that when there's challenge, there's also tremendous opportunity. I would say pay attention to the energy sector. I know it's perceived, at least again, I'm going to stick with the US because that's the context I know best, but it's perceived as an old industry dominated by men. And that's true. My boss is a man. It's the first time in my entire career, and since I've now been outed as not a youth, my career is longer than I obviously look. So anyway, the first time in my career I'm working for a man. His boss, my CEO, is a woman. My board is 50% diverse. I routinely look at LinkedIn at other US-based utility companies, and I see women ascending to power, leading in a CEO role, heads of investor relations, heads of marketing. And so I think the energy sector is going through transformation, to state the obvious. And I feel like when industries are being disrupted, there's incredible opportunity for people who are willing to take a risk, who are willing to kind of jostle for position to maneuver. And so I think the energy sector, if I was a younger woman, I would be taking a second look.
Excellent. Yes, and indeed, women have historically been disproportionately impacted in across the value chain of economics. And I think the climate agenda does open a tremendous opportunity, and that's one of the sustainability goals, gender parity. And I think when you look at 90% of the S&P Global issue now sustainability reports, many of them have that the SDG tied to gender parity. I recently joined PA Consulting. I was the first female partner in this, and I just joined 5 months ago, in the energy and utility sector. Okay, I've always been the 0.001% in my field, and I was at a time where I dressed it like a man, just like the little pharaoh who dressed like a male that we're gonna go see. Anyways, so the thing is, what I've learned through being through there is, it's the men that have opened up the opportunity, because I went and I asked them to open up the opportunity. And I know, like, my daughters and my sons would go, I can't believe you'd have to be that humble and seek an opportunity. And I said, well, the reality is you have to be humble in any role you play. And you have to demonstrate that you're willing to learn, you're willing to apply yourself, you're willing to co-create a vision and a strategy and execute that in a way that's meaningful for all that surround you and those that give you that opportunity. And my advice would be is operate from authentic self. Now is a time where we need diversity of thought so more across all realms. And I think for women particularly, just seek that opportunity, and be courageous, be authentic, and put yourself out there to convene and collaborate and think differently. And we really can co-create. It's not been easy at all. It's been very hard. And I think for each and every one of us, the challenge in the past and the challenge ahead is hard, but we can do that together. So thank you all.
Thank you, Kim. When I moved from banking to climate change, working with Papua New Guinea and with the rainforest countries, so if you know, in the forest, fuel wood, just simply cooking for your family, is one of the main drivers of deforestation, especially in Africa, but across the tropical region. And who goes out to gather the fuel wood in the forest? Is the women, from morning to night, and then preparing the food, etc. And when I start, There were no negotiators, women from rainforest country. And this is we're talking about 15 years ago. There were no ministers or head of state even think of women. I just fast forward in the past 15 years, 10 years, 5 years, you see that women that were doing the fuel wood, they're here now, empowered. They have the fire inside. They say, I was there. I know the struggle. I want to find the solution here. And they come, even they need to get, it takes some time to get there, understand the negotiating text, etc. They have a fire inside. They say, I live there. I want to get the improvement. I can do that. So the disadvantage they're taking as a positive and they're transforming it into, so that's really smart that women can do that. I see exactly at the higher level, things are changing as well. Now we have head of states. Honduras just elected a minister head of states. Italy did the same, etc. So, as advice, world is change. Be ready to embrace the changing and be ready to follow your passion. Don't be afraid of your weakness. Make them a strength. Don't be afraid if you are a odd accent and you want to play in a different world, just embrace it and make it actually an advantage.
Well, thank you. I should be wrapping up these valuable lessons, but my skill set is not as creative as one of my friends. So, Baba, if you don't mind giving us a formal wrap up.
Here, 1, 2. Hello. Who better to wrap up this panel than a dude? But like Liam Neeson, I am a man with a unique set of skills. So here's what I have to say about everything that I just heard. Good meet you. All right, women in leadership panel. No more old boys clubs, we need a few girls. Women in charge, y'all, this is the new world. Susan B. Anthony's, kick out the Dukes and Earls. Yeah, they distribute a few pearls. Women in leadership, yeah, the new girls. In charge, stewardship is the new world. I'm talking Jane Goodalls and Sylvia Earle. And these women here, true pearls. I'm talking powerful women, distinguished and awesome. Leading public service like Kimberly Johnson. Throwing it down, sustainable, it better be, right? She came from the U.S. Treasury. Kimberly, I love your passionate attitude. The old business model was extraction for the few. The new model is plenty for the many and getting shared value out of every penny. Celebrate these women leaders, the new star, the queen of capital markets, Claire Cousteau. I've been in the largely male banking community, or did you call it the large male banking community? Large males, obsessed with chasing whales, Moby Dicks on the road for kicks and big fails. Until Claire stepped in and brought the bank to twist and said, let me show you how to moderate some risk. Yeah, flip the world on its head in a business lunch with that South Carolina flair like Ethel Bunch. No need to be aggressive. Another masculine prowler. Change the world with strong women. Constant soft power. Power that's quite to my liking. Like Ethel in Tanzania with her daughters biking. Watching the women get businesses started. To beat a man at the same game, you gotta work harder. These women are writing the guide, the how-to, upending the business traditional masculine values from WWF to Duke Energy. That is animals, not wrestling. You can ask Catherine Neve, but it is wrestling. You're just wrestling power from the hands of every man who's pushing the planet downward. Not every man. We have to cut our losses. Ladies, please be nice to your soon-to-be ex-bosses and be ready to step into their shoes on the come-up. Change the momentum from Maserati to dump truck. From dump truck to Maserati. Unique responsibility to make the world better. A rainforest protector like Fede Pieta. Women, it's time to get on. Take charge. Here we go. You were born in this time, not 100 years ago, when there was no vote and no legal rights. Now it's takeover time. It's your time to shine. And I, for one, embrace with no remorse. I, for one, welcome our new feminine overlords. Okay, I guess over ladies, maybe. I still trust them to keep us up in the matrix, but it's no more old boys club. We got a few girls, women in charge here. This is the new world. Susan B. Anthony's, kick out the dukes and earls. Speak out, distribute a few pearls. Women in leadership, yeah, the new girls in charge. Stewardship for the new world. I'm talking Jane Goodall and Sylvia Earls, plus these women right here. Just